Hey everybody, how you doing? This, of course, is Oliver Joyce from Whiskeybarrel Studios, and I'm outside. I'm on my back deck, and we've got beautiful God rays here. Those beautiful sunlight rays. It's a summery morning, and it's kind of almost a little chilly. It's been kind of a cold summer, but it's beautiful. The air is brisk, and I've got a cup of tea. Already had my coffee for the day, so we're on the second cup. And I just wanted to talk to you a little about what I've been up to because I didn't do a video last week and I got nothing to show you. So I thought, what's the point of being in front of the computer? Let's get out, have a little bit of, just feel alive, just embrace the uh, the beautiful weather, and think about something to talk about because I haven't done a video in a little while. What have I been doing? Well, as many of you know, I'm sort of on the home stretch, of course, of Swords and Sandals Immortals. And the home stretch basically means dungeons and multiplayer. The multiplayer aspect is actually being worked on by a guy over in Canada, a great guy called Evan, who's been slowly sort of working on it in his spare time. Not that much left to do, if I'm going to be honest. He's sort of getting all the lobby stuff sorted. Got matchmaking in progress, and of course the combat is almost all complete. You know, gladiators can talk to each other, move forward, back, and it all works. We haven't done a little testing in a little while, so my priorities have been on the dungeon stuff. But once that's all wrapped up, I'm going to be turning my attention to that, and I'm going to help him get it all complete so we can wrap this whole thing up. Dungeons has been the focus of my last couple of weeks, and probably my next month or so. I'm really hoping I can get this out in time for Christmas, and of course the big Steam Christmas sale. So for those who haven't got Sword and Sandals Immortals yet, great time to get it. Dungeons has proved a bit bigger than I imagined, just because I haven't really been sure what I wanted to do with it. When I first suggested Dungeons, the idea in my head, I don't know what I was thinking, because it's it was basically the focus of Sword and Sandals 5 was dungeons and procedurally generated maps and mazes, and that was most of the game, with the arena stuff being kind of a throw-in. But in this game, the focus is very much on combat and detailed combat, and all these, there's almost 40 arenas or something like that, maybe even more. I've lost count. There's 62 arena champions, and that's easily the biggest Swords and Sandals game I've ever made. And then to throw in dungeons, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? What was that all about? But I did promise it, so I have to deliver. And when I deliver something, I don't want it to just be a kind of a throw-in. So I had to think, what am I going to do with this? And the idea right now is to do 3D dungeons, and not full-on, Dark Souls detailed 3D, more in the style of games like Legend of Grimrock and Eye of the Beholder. And if you remember those games, step forward, turn. It turns at a 90-degree angle. Think, Wolfenstein, as far as, you basically have a roof and a ceiling, ceiling and a floor, sorry, and you move forward, but not in that real-time way that Wolfenstein does. This is much more in a turn-based way, in the same way that, Sword and Sandals 5 had turn. So, good news is, I've got that working. I've got a beautiful, nicely lit dungeon where you can step, and move around this maze. Right now the dungeons are empty, and I'm spending my next few weeks working out how I can populate them, what kind of traps, what kind of rewards, that kind of thing you'll find in them. Now the key here is there are no enemies in these dungeons until you reach the big bad boss. I thought about it a lot, but I realized that to add enemies to these dungeons would mean adding a full combat system that I'm just not prepared to do. It would mean every different skill and talent in the game had to sort of work in dungeons as well. And that, to be honest, is really just beyond the scope of the game. And if I was going to do that, the game would still be a work in progress in 6 months' time. And I just don't have the luxury to do that. I need to move on to the next game, because it's nearly 2023, and I'd said I would wrap this game up by the end of the year, ideally. And I think I can still put a pretty fun little dungeon package together. So this is going to be more of a survival thing. So imagine, if you will, you're on your overland map and you see this dungeon, and when you go there, you actually get a little parchment scroll. And spoilers from here on in, guys, so if you don't want any spoilers, please like the video and then put it off. But if you want to know more about, the lore and the story of the game, now's the time to listen on. So you go to the dungeon and you see a little parchment scroll, and it's actually addressed to you by Bargle. Remember Bargle, the sorcerer who has sort of been part of the series on and off throughout the whole course of things, meddling in his own special way. In this one, he's basically said to you, look, I've set up some challenge dungeons for you because I believe you could be the one to defeat the Starbound Gladiator, but I want to test you because, Bargle does Bargle things. And he says, in these dungeons, you have a backpack of, at the moment, 8 things. You can only take 8 things into the dungeon, and your armor and weapon, of course. But you basically have to go and pack dungeon-specific items that you find from the tavern keeper, things like torches, food, trap kits, lock pits, wooden planks. Do you remember the dungeon stuff that you found in Sword and Sandals 5 that was useful for, bombs for blowing up boulders, that kind of thing? You choose 8 of these things, and you can take them into the dungeon with you. And then you'll come across probably, I'm not 100% certain, but probably a procedurally generated dungeon map that you have to navigate and then use the items that you found to get through to the end. And you'll take damage, you'll get hungry, you have a torch, and that torch will go dark, and if it gets dark, you're in real trouble because, if you remember Sword and Sandals 5, sneak preview there. But yeah, you'll be in real trouble. When you get past this maze and then you find the the exit, you go through and then you will fight a special dungeon champion basically, and these are still I'm keeping secret, but I've designed them all already. And for those who are familiar with Sword and Sandals lore, these are going to be some classic bosses from the past. Whoa! That, my friends, is a cockatoo, and that's an Australian bird that has the beautiful white birds with this sort of like sulfur crest on the back. But they sound like a jet engine, and when you get a flock of them flying over, it's like, you feel like you need to hide under the table or something because it's like an air raid or something, this noise. That's the one. A lot of cool wildlife in Australia, but a lot of noisy wildlife. Anyway, I was saying Swords and Sandals Immortals has dungeon champions, and these dungeon champions will be callbacks to classic gladiators from the past, in particular one game. So I'm not going to let you know which game that is, but I have put them in there already. And this week I actually designed a special end game for those who complete all the dungeon champions. You get a special reward, and you will also get a little advantage in defeating the Starbound Gladiator, and then you get a different end game screen, which will be kind of fun. So that is all done now, and now today my focus turns back to the dungeons, getting those extra props and models into the game, because the game is a 2D game, but all of a sudden I'm doing this kind of, it's a lo-fi 3D, very reminiscent of 1990s style Eye the Beholder kind of games. Look that up if you're not sure what I mean. Legend of Grimrock is a great reimagining of that. That's what I've been inspired by. Ultra simple, guys. This is not going to be something you'll be playing for hours and hours. I expect these dungeons to take no more than 3 or 4 minutes to go through, I would say. I'm still an estimate at this stage. Then you fight the dungeon boss. And I'm still working on it. I think once you get through the dungeon, if you die, you can kind of like, if you played Elden Ring, you have the stake of Marika, and you can respawn at the dungeon fight with whatever health you had there, because I think it would be unfair to go, well, now go through a whole dungeon again. But they're going to be a fun little challenge, and I think will break up the main content of the game pretty well. So, as I said, I'm expecting to work on that over the next 3 to 4 weeks and have it done by 16th of November now. I'm going to say, this time in a month we should have something ready, all things being equal, and knock on wood. I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters there, who I don't have my list here because I'm not in front of the computer, but you know who you are. Thank you so much for supporting me, especially during the sort of lulls of the game now where I don't have that much to show. You guys get a newsletter every week where I just talk about things, this kind of stuff, and I am just really thankful to you guys for believing in me. And of course, when I wrap this game up, you'll be getting the first scoop on what my next game is. I had this crazy idea last night. Little hint for you guys. Starship Troopers, the movie. Okay? That's all I'm going to tell you right now. But that's where my kind of imagination is going right now. And that's where I'm thinking my next game, will be headed. That's all I can tell you for now. But I can't wait to go into it. I mean, I love Sword and Sandals, but I'm really so ready to take a break from it and move on to the next thing, because I've been doing this for many years, and since I started Whiskeybarrel Studios in 2013, pretty much all I've done has been Swords and Sandals, and I will return to this series as I mentioned before, but I do need a creative break from it, and I think the series needs time to breathe, because it is unfortunately a case of diminishing returns. If I only ever make Sword and Sandals games, I can't keep doing this forever. You said it, Cockatoo. You said it. Couldn't have said it better myself. Anyway, guys, thanks for being with me today. Welcome to my back deck, and I hope you have a brilliant weekend. I'm going to get on with some work, finish my tea, and I'll see you in the next video. And hopefully soon I'll have some gameplay to show you all. All right, until next time, my friends. Bye for now.